I am by your side. I am by your side. This one thing is for certain. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is time for another devotional, Release Devotional 2.0. 2.0. Why 2.0? Because if you were with us in the beginning, we did the 21-day release journey, and it was amazing. And we picked up some friends, hint, hint, along the way, because it was a women's release journey. And thank you for the teal hearts over here on Periscope that match our branding scheme for today. And we picked up some men, and we decided we're going to keep the journey going with the Release Devotional 2.0. So welcome to everybody. Good to see you all in the room. Hi, Lisa, Neil, Michael. Yes, the Reverend Dr. Patrick DeWitt Clayborn joining us today. Hey, Miss Helen, how are you? So good to see everybody. Leola, hello. Hand claps and thumbs up. Hello, my love. Miss Monique Savalas, good morning, fam. Hello, Annette. Good to see you, my sister. Thank you for the flower. Jen, awesome testimony she shared yesterday. If you missed Living in Purpose, go back and watch that. That was definitely, man, that was a game changer. Thank you so much, Jennifer. That was amazing. And today we are continuing in a flow that actually started out of last week's show, where we get together talking about living in purpose. And we go through this book, my book, From Dream to Reality, Navigating the Path of Your Life Purpose, trying to help make sure everybody finds their place of purpose and their role that they're operating under that purpose in for the season. And as we were talking about that, if you all who follow remember, we hit this hard stop. We hit a hard pause when I was doing exercises with you, and it came up to a point where we were talking about, do you even really feel like you deserve to fulfill your purpose? Do you feel worthy of achieving the dream? Do you feel worthy? Do you feel deserving? And that's where we hit it. And I decided that we're going to tackle this topic of self-worth, self-love, self-acceptance. And then on the back end of that, I added self-advocacy, because if you love yourself, advocacy is going to be an instrumental part of that, already built in. And so good morning, Pam. Good morning. I'm by your side. That's it, Michael. You know I like some good theme songs. I'm by your side. Hello, Nicole. Good to see you. So let's start with a quote, and then I want to give definitions so that we're all kind of stay on the same page about what we're talking about. Okay. So I want you to check this out. This was a post by Ian Levanzant just like a few days ago, and I thought it, pretty important. And pretty pertinent to our discussion. She says, self-worth is an understanding on the intellectual level, trusting at the heart level, and accepting at the soul level that you are worthy just because you believe that you are. And I'll add, because God says you are. Your worthiness is proven by your existence, your breathing, the beating of your heart. Your mere presence is all that's needed to establish your worth. I mean, that pretty profound, right? Y'all she's got a new bone, and she's got to make sure she exerts control to dominate who's going to rule. The bone is the boss, or I'm the boss? I'm the boss, or the bone is the boss? It's an indoctrination process we go through with every new bone. Welcome into my coach's suite. Today, our guest, none other than her goddaddy and my pastor, and one I consider a spiritual sibling. Would you all please welcome the one, the only, Reverend Dr. Patrick Clayborn.
Good morning, Miss Nala. Oh, yes.
You see, she's giving it the business. Yes. I'm so glad that you said yes to this discussion. I know it's a discussion that's really important to you. Yes. Yes, and hi Nala. She gets more play than we do. Well, welcome, Reverend Doctor. So I just want you to share though a little bit, outside of you being a pastor, you being a spiritual advisor, you being a professor. What are the things about this topic that really pulled you in from a personal place where you wanted to weigh in this heavily?
I believe that the idea of self-love is often overlooked. I think it's just here recently where you see people encouraging things like massage and acupuncture and meditation and all that, yoga and all those kind of things. I mean, heretofore, it was always do for others, do for others, do for God, do for God, do for your community, do for your family. And, the idea of a strong person was the person who put themselves last. And we've come to find that that has been very, very wrong. I like to call it flight attendant theology, where the flight attendant tells you, in case the cabin loses pressure, the mask will drop down. Make sure you put your mask on first
Yes.
before you try to help somebody else. Because if you try to help somebody else before you help yourself, you won't make it.
You got it. They're saying you're looking sharp. All the men taking note. All the men taking note. Absolutely. And good morning. Good morning, Kenny. Good to see you. Good morning, Reverend Riri.
Kenny. Hey.
Yeah. And so that's where we stand. So, and I want to go through the definitions because I know, especially in this space of self-help, self-awareness, it's even possible to kind of get a myopic kind of understanding about what any of these things are, because they can kind of get all meshed in together.
Yeah.
And so I want to kind of just go through the definitions. Hi, Pamela, good to see you. And just kind of keep us all on the same page. So when we talk about, let's start with self-worth. Our self-esteem, that's the beliefs about ourselves as well as your emotional state of being, right? It's how we self-evaluate our worth, our value, right? Self-love, how we love ourselves, that thing that you were talking about, the help, the care, the concern, turn inwardly, and so that we can sustain our own happiness. And it is a basic necessity, as you said, because if you don't put the mask on yourself, you have nothing to give anybody else.
No.
In fact, we'll get into scripture. We were talking about when Jesus talks about the greatest commandments, and one of them being, you got to love others as you are able to love yourself.
Yes.
Self-acceptance, really important. The definition there being that you understand, you recognize all of you, the growing edges, the limitations, and your abilities, and you grab it up. And I said this morning, you just doggedly grab it and you hug it and you brace it all, because you understand that nobody's perfect, right? And so we accept ourselves flaws. Self-advocacy. And I added this because we're going to do an exercise on the end. Those of you that are part of the empowerment tribe who have opted into getting text from me, you got a downloadable, and I hope you used it. It's fillable. You can use it online. The rest of you, we'll do the exercise here, but I like to give you things that you can keep. So when you say you want to be a part of the tribe, I try to give you things that you can keep and you can document your growth and see how that goes. So we're going to be doing some practices and exercises geared towards self-advocacy. I know you had a scripture that you wanted to take a look at. Do you want to jump off from there, or how would you like to dig into this? I will say, remembering that the whole reason we're here is because of this discussion of purpose and finding and fulfilling our roles and our assignments. And then we hit that big, roadblock where I heard it in the spirit and people started confirming that am I worthy to receive it? Am I worthy of fulfilling that?
Yeah. I think this scripture out of Psalms, Psalm 139, you and I kind of talked about it the other day. Starts at verse number 13.
Okay.
And it says, "For it was you who formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb." Verse 14, "I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works that I know very well. And I think that that ends up being kind of the basis for self-worth, self-love, self-acceptance, and self-advocacy, that God loves me.
Mm.
God loves me. God made me, and I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
And to that's where the core of self-worth, self-love, self-acceptance, self-advocacy comes from, because God believes I'm worthy.
Yeah.
God accepts me because God made me in God's image, and
Yeah.
that I am good. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. That there is a divine spark in me, that I have God's fingerprint on my life, right? And I believe that for us, I believe, can become a jumping off point when we talk about self-love, self-worth, self-acceptance, and self-advocacy.
You just gonna let me talk and you not tell me that you couldn't hear me?
I was,
You just gonna let me talk.
I was
You
like,
just gonna let my mouth be moving and
I
that's
was
it.
pointing at my ear. I was like,
I
maybe
didn't say
I thought it was me. I was like, oh no, I can't hear you. Is it me?
it's okay. Okay, Reverend Doctor, I need y'all in the chat room. Thank you, Monique. Good looking out. Thank you. All right. So, well, no, I was gonna say, if you would go back and look at, he gave me the most subtle gesture. I got it. He's trying to keep it. We just people, so we just say what we got to say. I can't hear you. Okay, so, I wanted you to go back to the verse before in
Oh
13,
yes.
because for me, um the fact that it says God formed me, God formed my inner parts,
Mm-hmm.
God knitted me together.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's all the more reason why I can believe that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, because
Yes.
I didn't make me,
Right.
I didn't form me.
Right.
I didn't do that. And I just wanted you to kind of dig there for a second.
Yeah, I mean that I am God's creation. We are God's creation. And the way I am made is the way God made me. I think that the way I am constructed is how God put me together. And to accept that really is to accept God's gift of life in me, right? So when I don't love myself, in essence, that is bespeaking of another truth, that there must be something between me and God that is
Yeah.
not together,
Yeah.
because it's something about me that does not appreciate what God has done in me. Now, and I'll make the caveat, this is not about people wanting to lose weight or having cosmetic surgery. I'm not trying to get into all of that. Your body is the your possession, and you are to be a good steward over your body. So you do with it what you think is best for it. I'm not trying to get in that discussion, but to suggest that I don't love the essence of who I am beyond, yes, my skin and my hair, my skin color and all, but even beyond that, my heart, my mind, my thoughts, my gifts, my skills, my passions. If I don't love that, because God made all of that too. God didn't just make my flesh and bones,
Yeah.
but God put gifts on the inside of me, put desires on the inside of me, put ideas and motivations, inclinations, talents, leanings toward different people and different things.
Yeah.
And I have to appreciate all of that. And in doing so, I appreciate God.
Yes.
We were knit together. I mean, think about how something gets knit, and
Yes.
what the intricacy of knitting something, that all that I am God's tapestry, right? That everything in me is a design by God. We like Tommy Hilfiger, we like red bottoms, but what about GC, God's child? I
All
mean,
right.
oh, sorry.
I hear you.
I'm not a
Go
fashion
ahead.
expert, so I don't, you know, try to give
Clothing line on the way. All right. No, let me say, because I just heard it. This I shouldn't have to tell you all, but come on, tribe. Y'all know what to do. You need to share this across your platforms, because this discussion of self-worth, self-love, self-acceptance, and self-advocacy, we were talking about this amongst ourselves. For a lot of what we're seeing and what's going on, you can pin a lot of that back to this, because when you have self-worth, self-love, self-acceptance, and self-advocacy, you don't have to believe that somebody else is going to take anything from you, or somebody else is a bigger threat to you, or any of those kinds of things, because you're able to see things in a perspective, and a right perspective, not based out of fear, and not based out of self complacency, because I think there's some levels of self-acceptance where people ride that line of complacency, or even narcissism. Or even narcissism. And so this, you want to share, you want to share this, right? Sound is good. Everything's good. You'll be looking good. You'll be a hero. Go ahead and share this out to your platforms. Hello, Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. All right, let's dig in. Having been in television for over 27 something years, and then performance based things after that, I'm well aware, and I played sports growing up too. I'm well aware of this shaming that kind of is used as a tool for performance, that is wrapped in the guise of being, well, this is about self-worth. This is about self-advocacy, right? The shaming. And what I found is, because you think about it, you miss, like I played softball, like you miss a pop fly, you miss this, you miss the throw to first, you miss those things. Or on camera, you messed up this, world leader's name, or you miss this, or you miss that, that shaming that may propel you in a moment, the very next moment, right? That could be. But the other thing being, long-term change really has to be built on self-worth and self-love. Would you agree?
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. I think the idea that a mistake has to be my long-term motivation will never in the end help me win, because then really, if mistake is my long-term motivation, not necessarily short-term, but if the fear of criticism, if the fear of failure is my long-term motivation, then really what is pushing me is fear, and that's never healthy. And so what was propelling me is this thing that says I'm not good enough. And so what will happen is I'll never achieve, because I'll never hit the mark. I'll never celebrate the goal, because something will always say, you could have done better. Somebody else did it better. They're not going to really love you until you hit that mark. And by the time I hit that mark, someone says, well, no, you need to hit the next mark. Because it's a black hole in the inside of our soul. So we know a black hole, it sucks light in, it sucks everything in. And so it's a black hole in our soul, and it just sucks in all the light, all the love, all the grace. It just sucks all that in, and we're never able to overcome that. So to your point that, I make a mistake. Ooh, I gotta correct that short term. But if I make that long term, what I'm essentially saying is this mistake defines me. Right. And so we don't want that. We want, again, for self-love, self-worth, self-acceptance, self-advocacy to be what propels us forward.
And I mentioned that because no matter where you are in the past, like I see it when I work with entrepreneurs, content creators, this, I don't want to say misinformed thought, that I just think it's how society has kind of raised this, but this belief that I'm trying to build this business and I'm trying to get this product off the ground, or I'm trying to do this, or I'm trying to fulfill this purpose, or I'm trying to and if I, and I don't want to step out because I missed the mark here and I missed the mark there and I missed the mark here. And so they've let that shame of the mistake, instead of diving into self-acceptance and learning from the mistake, right, to propel them forward. And I think it's also, and so I'm so passionate about it. Let me just slow my brain down. Hold on. Let me just slow my brain down. Because honestly, I deal with it. Yeah, if I'm honest, I deal with it. I deal with it in the areas. Okay, so for instance, just transparency. Last week we did a huge show. I was very, very, very excited to do. I felt like it was important work to get these six diverse therapists together to talk about racism and how we have the talk, right? And I was excited. And I don't, because I grew up interviewing celebrities, I don't get like celeb struck, but I am very driven by intellectuals and by people who help bring light, who are light bearers. And so I was excited to have them on. And so I had this virtual room full of people. And it wasn't until after the program was done, I asked for feedback, because I do what I model or tell you all, that we should always look for perspective and feedback from outside of ourselves. And one of the pieces of feedback that I got was from one of my newer guests that I had invited on, who is a psychologist. So he is a PhD, Psych-D in that regard. And I did refer to him as doctor. And I inadvertently referred to somebody else as doctor. And though he wasn't offended and though he was gracious about it, he did point it out. But in that moment of getting that constructive criticism, I was like, oh my God. And I'll just tell you the whole thing that ran in my head. You're an Emmy Award winning anchor. You can remember to call somebody doctor. You've done this a bazillion times. You know the importance of titles, blah, blah, blah. Like all that whole thing just rolled through me. And I could feel it.
Yeah.
I could feel it. And so, I did what I needed to do with him, which we have talked about. Like when you have a mistake, you missed it, you knew better, you just missed it, you go back and you fix it, right?
Right.
And so I did that with him, but I felt that thing. And so I remember later that day, I thought I had moved past it, but I felt it in my body. I still felt it. Right. And that's one of the things I think, it's important for our folks, our viewers, to like, you will feel shame. You will feel the opposite of self-love.
Yeah.
You'll feel it. And I had to meditate through it and say, this doesn't define me as a person. This doesn't define me in my talent and my gifting and whatever. This was a moment, I learned from it and I move on. Right. And so how do we did an exercise. Go back to the place where you remember being told or marked with this idea that you are not good enough. You're not worthy enough to fulfill your purpose, to reach your dreams, to do the thing that God told you to do. And we started that work. But from you, our spiritual advisor, what are we really buckling into in that moment? And how do we even approach it?
That's a great question. When you are faced with your frailty, faced with your imperfections and your limitations, right? Because you said self-acceptance is about accepting not just my benefits, not just my giftings, but also accept the things that I don't do well, the things that are my lesser strengths, the things where I do fall short and my mistakes. It's about owning that and being okay with it, and not getting to what you said about the place of complacency.
Right.
It's okay for me. Oh, I'm not good at that, so I'm just not going to try. But just kind of knowing that if this is my lesser strength, maybe this helps me in terms of God's destiny for my life. Then maybe if I don't sing well, maybe God didn't want me to be a singer. But I shouldn't hate myself because I don't sing well, right?
Yes, that's good. Ooh, let that breathe right there. Say that again.
Right. You know, I may not have a gift for teaching, but because I don't teach, I shouldn't hate myself for not being able to be a teacher.
That's
Maybe
awesome.
that's just not God's plan for my life. But it doesn't mean that I shouldn't work on some things that could help benefit me. But I have to accept that, well, I'm just not going to be good at this because that's not really where I'm supposed to be going. And that's all right. And I think that then, and that's one side. Or the other side, to your point, I make a mistake in somewhere where I'm supposed to excel,
Yeah.
right? And this is sometimes the curse of high achievers. I'm good at preaching, and I messed up this sermon, and now I gotta say I'm good at teaching, and I messed up this lesson. I'm good at interviewing, and I messed up the interview. That becomes a whole nother conversation. How can I not allow that to hinder me? At the same time, I have to acknowledge I made the mistake. I messed up in a place of my strength. How do I rebound from that? And I think one example is David out of the Bible. So we looked at his Psalm 139, but look at his life. I believe it's 1 Samuel chapter 30, where he is he's leading these men in Ziklag, and he was working for the enemy, but as a kind of undercover agent, double agent. But then while the enemy was asleep, he would mess up the enemy's plans. Well, they figured it out, and the enemy came to their camp and took everything plus their wives and children. Well, when they got back, everybody was sad and they wanted to kill David.
Yeah.
Even though they followed David of their own volition, he didn't make them follow him. They showed up and said, "We want to follow you," but because they followed him and things didn't work out, they wanted to kill him. And the Bible says he encouraged himself. Now, leadership was a place of his strength, and he failed. There was a failure on his watch in leadership. He put his people at risk. That was true. He was a good leader, and he failed in that moment. And what did he do? He encouraged himself.
Yeah.
Right. So he began to speak into himself, not anything false. He didn't try to deny that he messed up. He didn't try to say, "Oh, it wasn't me." He didn't try to blame anybody else. What he was saying essentially was, "I am fearfully and wonderfully made. God knit me together. Yes, this was a mess up, but this mess up does not define who God made me to be." It just bespeaks the fact that I am human and I have my flaws, but I can overcome them because the one who made me can help me overcome them.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Ooh, that's so good. Let me throw in a couple of comments I saw that came from the chat room. Monique says, "Rev, you have no idea how much you've helped me with my self-worth just in the way you preach." Girl, I know what you mean. We must learn, Savala says, to trust God's intent toward us, which is always love. Our challenge is to overcome. Our challenge to overcome is seeing ourselves the way he sees us. Yep. David had to encourage himself. Absolutely. I want to go back. We were looking at that quote from Iyanla Vanzant when we started. And I thought it was interesting to pull out these three things that she kind of made mention of. She said it's understanding on an intellectual level,
Yes,
trusting at a heart level, and accepting at the soul level. And I was wondering if you would speak to that.
Yeah. Because she is speaking to all of the parts of us, right? The mind, the heart, and the soul, or and I don't want to speak for her, but maybe the spirit, So you got the mind. So yes, on an intellectual level, there has to be a logic, right? That I'm okay, that I'm all right. Something has to work in here, because if it's not in here, then it won't resonate in other places, right?
Right.
And at the same time, but it also needs to be here.
Yeah.
And notice she says trusting at the heart level, right?
Yeah.
The heart is the eight. That's the place where we trust. When we use the phrase, "I'll give you my heart," that means I trust you, and it's essentially giving our heart to ourselves, right? that I trust me. I trust me because I trust the God that made me, right? And in so doing, then I'll be able to trust those beyond me. And then she says, trust at the heart level and acceptance at the soul level. That my soul has to say yes.
Yeah.
My spirit has to say yes. There has to be a yes in me, and a yes to me.
Yeah.
I have to say yes to me, even though life circumstances may be saying no to me. And I think you and I kind of talked about that. That's kind of where the issue comes up. But what about life saying no to me? Those people were telling David, we say no to you. You're the problem. We're going to kill you. And he had to say, though you say, no to me, I'm still saying yes to me. Right.
Yeah.
And it's about an acceptance of sometimes what you cannot see. Sometimes you can't see the worth because other people may have been telling you. I think it's that everybody been talking about racism and all this, but those are learned behaviors.
Yeah.
That is learned. We don't come here hating.
Yes.
You don't see children hating because of difference in color or skin.
Right.
Yeah, now they may pick fun here and there, but that's just because you look different. And they throw mud at you. But there's never a hatred of the person based on color or anything like that. We come here loving and but then that means that people have been telling us that you're limited. You can't be any more than who we say you can be. Limited. And we have to break through that by saying yes to us, which is in essence saying yes to God. Because again, God is the one who knit us together.
Yeah, no, and I think the other thing that is, and I know this is gonna, hey, Caitlin.
Wow,
Caitlin. Glad you did. I'm glad you ran across it too. That's why I tell people to share, because you never know who needs to be in the room. And I'm so glad, however you found it, that you found it. I want to talk a little bit about you, because you kind of mentioned it. You talked about the racism piece, but so we talk about hate. Hate can be turned inwardly and hate can be turned outwardly, right? So if you're not in self-love, then you can be self-loathing and self-hate, right? And what you can't give what you don't have. So a lot of times when we're seeing people who are hating other people, you have to go back and remember they can't give you what they don't have. So that's why, to me, it's a moot point to be fussing on Facebook, because you're talking about trying to shift mindset and things from a fundamentally root perspective, heart, mind, spirit, soul, right? So I also want to bring up this point about cognitive distortions, right? So it's like, it's the point where our mind tells us something that's not true, but helps us accept it as true, right? It just convinces us that something that's not true is true. And usually it's in the negative, right? And you have to stay in a rational and sound kind of grounded place. Because if not, those cognitive distortions will wear on you. I'll use another example, of a personal example, and I've shared this with you. So there was a period of time, I think I had just moved here, or soon after I just moved here, and I probably was feeling a little displaced, a little lonely. I didn't know anybody in Baltimore at the time, outside of you, all my extended family. And I felt isolated, siloed, all those things. And in that space, when I started going out, I started feeling that I was disregarded. Just everywhere I was going, I was being disregarded. So if I was going to the grocery store, like I could be standing 3 feet from the rack and somebody would walk right in between instead of go around, or walk in between and not say, excuse me, or different things. And I was like, yeah, people are so disrespectful. And everything I saw was the disrespect. Everything that I started encountering was this disrespect. And it's not that it wasn't happening.
Right.
It's that cognitive distortion that switch flips on and says it's happening at me. It's happening to me. It's about me, right? And so I think what we may have had in that moment of working with people about their purpose and bumping up against the self-worth and self-love is that something has happened. There's been some trauma, there's been some incident, then there's been some words spoken over them that planted that seed, and then cognitive distortions, that element kicks in, and then they say, yep, they must be right. See, God let that happen to me, or that happened, or this person said that and confirmed that. What do we do with that? How do we break that construct of believing these things, these false realities, these false distortions as being our personal truths?
Well, that's a complex question. It's a great question. It's complex.
I get it.
Because depending on the level of the cognitive distortion will determine the amount of help you need.
Absolutely.
Because it may be more than just seeing your pastor. You may need a life coach, because it may,
especially when we talk about trauma, right?
Yeah, it may go beyond the spiritual plane. It may need to happen at the emotional level, and sometimes at the physical level, because you may need even psychotherapy. You may need to see a doctor. I mean, that depending, like I said, depending upon the level of the trauma and the level of the hurt. And what has to happen is there has to be a break in the thinking process, because now ingrained in that thinking process is that I am not enough because of this narrative that was either given to me or I constructed out of my hurt and my pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that narrative has now become a foundation in my life. And depending upon how long I've been living in that narrative will determine how much will have to happen. Was at the pool for 38 years,
right?
Lame. And Jesus said, look around, you can get in the pool, get healed with the problem. Well, I've been late. People jump in front of me. I mean, he had this whole story.
Yes, that's awesome.
He had a whole narrative. And Jesus like, do you want to be made well? Bob jumped in front of me last year, and Cindy for 38 years. You couldn't even roll over. You couldn't fall in. 38 years. I mean, there was a whole story that he had. His thinking had been bombarded due to the trauma, and there may have been people who pushed him out of the way and said, get out the way, I'm gonna get in. I mean, and over time, them saying that says to him, I'm not supposed to get healed.
I believe that I'm not supposed to be healed. See, I'm supposed to be lame. Man, you better bring that thing together. That's what I'm talking about, because it's not that people may not have walked over him. It's not that people may have not, yes, absolutely pushed past him, but he believed that those things, those happenings meant and solidified, that's why you're where you are. You're not supposed to be any other place but that mat.
Because at that point he had been trained. And so the next year when the pool got trouble, more than likely he wouldn't even try to get in, because the narrative already was there. Because if I try, somebody will jump in front of me. So no. Okay.
Man, oh man. I hope you all are getting a grasp of this. It can happen so subtly. It's one thing can happen. One thing said, it's sprinkled this year. Something else happens that year. And when I go back to the example I used of the disrespect, I had to grab myself and say, wait a minute, am I drawing this to me? Am I drawing this to me? And I said, yes, perhaps you are. So I started looking for the good. And guess what? I found it. Neil said, to some degree, I believe we took value in what others said and did instead of what God said. Yes, we have to accept we're fearfully and wonderfully made. Caitlin says, generational ideologies keep us stagnant. You see her? She's stepping heavy today. Caitlin is stepping heavy.
Work that.
Come on, Caitlin. Say so, Pastor. Will thou be made whole? In essence, you're aware that your issue is not just physical, but absolutely, absolutely. And I love that, because come on, Pastor. I love it because I often say Jesus was the ultimate life coach. He was the gold standard in life coaching, because when people tried to trip him up with law and all this other stuff, he always came back with self-excavation, questions about self-excavation and self-discovery. So that question of, do you want to be well? It doesn't matter what happened or what this is or what that was or who didn't do this or who didn't do that. Do you want to be made well? And we talk about all the time, Empowerment Tribe, about where focus goes, energy flows. When you focus back on, I want to be well, which is why we do our affirmation every morning when we come on. And I hope you do it over the weekend, is I am deserving of being healthy and well and whole. And I deserve to be healthy, well, and whole.
Yes.
To be deserving and to feel worthy. Those can be two of the toughest things to embrace. And would you say it's a sin anchor?
Yeah. I think when we don't accept ourselves, when we don't love ourselves, we are then vulnerable to the waves and the winds of life. And we can get anchored in some pretty deadly places. You know, there's one story about this woman who went to a well in Samaria.
Yes, sir.
And she was anchored in some pretty bad places, right? And to the point where she would go to the well at the hottest part of the day, so she wouldn't have to deal with other people, because in her head they didn't want to deal with her. And it was probably the truth. It wasn't just something she made up because of her situation. And she finds at the well a life coach who says, I'm a little thirsty, give me some drink. And they get a tip about drinking. And then he said, well, you trying to get this water as well, but I got some water. If you drink this water, you'll never be thirsty again. She's like, well, you don't even have a bucket. Well, okay, so give me some of that water. Let me get that. He said, okay, go find your husband. Now, regardless of how you want to paint
her up in that,
if she was a scandalous woman on one side or she was an abused woman on the other side, because there's evidence that she had been abused and was forced to go to these different marriages, right? So however you see that, there's trauma in her system, and she is considered a pariah in her society, right? She then said, I don't have a husband. Said, right, you don't, because you got this jacked up situation. And she says, you know what? You must be a prophet. And she makes this leap, which could seem illogical to us. They don't talk anymore about the marriages or the man she's living with. They then begin to talk about, she says, can you tell me where I'm supposed to worship God?
Right.
How can I find, watch this, how can I find a connection to God? Now, my people say I got to go up on this mountain. Your people say I'm supposed to go in the city. I just need a connection to him. Because if I can get a connection to God, maybe all this other stuff, and maybe I can feel better about me, but I got to find that connection. Can I worship? And so then Jesus said, it's not about the location. It's about your posture. It's about your attitude. It's supposed to be spirit and truth. It's not about a mountain, not about a city. It's about spirit and truth. And she was like, oh, well, that sounds good. Well, I guess the Messiah is going to explain all this to us. And he said, well, I'm the one. And at that point, she leaves her water pot. She runs back into the city. Tells everybody, say, come see a man that told me everything. I mean, at that point, she caught it. She caught it to the point you saw her making exponential leaps in milliseconds, to the point people she was trying to avoid, now she's trying to witness to. Because she realized that something in her began to spring up. That water he promised her that would spring up into everlasting life was coming up in her, because now what had happened was she realized, I can connect to the one who loves me. And I can connect to the one regard. Now watch this. Her home life had not changed. Her marital status had not changed. People had not changed their opinion about her. Nothing had changed other than her mindset.
Come on, Doc.
Because God's love hadn't changed. God still loved her. But her mindset, Jesus gave her a new perspective, disrupted Her old narrative disrupted her old thinking, disrupted the way she saw herself and things around her. And now she is changed. She's changed for the better. And by her being changed, everything else changes.
Yes.
Everything else changes.
Yes.
But once you change me, now my situation, I may not have any more money. I may not have better friends. But if I'm changed, everything else around me is changed. Oh, let me stop.
I know. Neil said, where do I send my offering? I'm feeling that thing. Listen, that's why we focus on mindset. That's why. Because God made it very clear to me that people they can come to you talking about a relationship, their finances, anything, their job, but if we don't get the mindset thing down, right? If we don't get that, there's nothing that we can do. I mean, they are rolling out in this chat room. They are falling out.
And the crazy thing, Janette, Jesus told this woman, the Father seeks you. If you want to connect to him, God is always, he's trying to connect to you.
Trying to connect back to you.
He's seeking after you. If you come for him in spirit and truth, I'm coming for you. God is coming to think. Now she says, wait a minute. I had all these messed up marriages, whether I messed them up, whether people messed me up. I have all this stuff around me, all this mess around me. And the fact that God is looking for me, that God is trying to find, I mean, that changes.
Yes, everything.
That's the game changer. And if we could ever conceive that God wants us, and that God is looking after us, oh man, that's.
And let me just tell them, they're like, keep going. No, he's not going to keep going, because if y'all want to see Bible study, that's at 12, and then you have to go to our Facebook page on Bethel AME Church. Y'all ain't gonna tip in here for devotional and get a side item of Bible study and Sunday service to go. No, ma'am. No, sir. No, ma'am. No, sir. He's here. He's here for to come through on the devotional. Y'all come on. And at 12 o'clock today, y'all can just click on over to Bethel AME Church in Baltimore and get your Bible study. Because y'all, yeah, I see y'all. Y'all like, keep going. Come on, Pastor Preach. He will. 12 o'clock on Bethel. On Bethel's page. He done started something. He'll finish it over there. And it's a good one too. Give us a little what's our topic today?
Vision.
No, but the whole thing.
Oh, tools for the witness.
Protection. Tools for the witness. Talking about vision. So if you want to finish that, then you come on over to that Facebook page. Y'all are some greedy little eaters over here.
Oh God.
All right. Let me go back, because somebody had a question, and I hope that can't wait for Bible study. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Kwame, what's up, man? It's all about the mind spinning perspective. By the way, Kwame, we do it every morning, 10 a.m. Hey, what's up, Reverend Riri? She is cracking up because she knows I'm right. He is preaching and teaching. I want to go back because we have an exercise for you all to do. Because part of this, y'all know, part of this, I don't be playing. Part of this is work that we have to do. All right. And what it came to do was plant some seeds and some awareness as we talk about these areas of self-love, self-worth, self-acceptance, self-advocacy. That's why the enemy is invested in keeping us bound, because if we receive the liberty in Christ, watch out. That's it. Watch it. And let me go back. Dennis said, especially when you've told yourself something different for so long, these implicit biases that will leave you stuck in a waiting place. You got to change your attitude. Absolutely. Caitlin added, I think we've been taught to give God too much credit for our suffering rather than the acts of free will that hurt us. And that's exactly what I was talking about. Caitlin, you stepping heavy, girl. That's what I was talking about. Those places of shame and narcissism and all these other complacency where you go, well, this is just the way it is. Kind of like the man at the pool. Well, this is the way it is. Or or that narcissistic thing where you're so afraid of being ordinary that you think too highly of yourself, right? And so all of those things can be trappings and get in the way of you having clear vision for true self-worth, self-love, self-acceptance, and self-advocacy. And Yvette, I said I would come back to your question. You asked about how to deal with somebody who is not a kind person or who is a mean person, and what do you do with that? And we'll go back to somebody being rude. There it is. The thing is, you cannot change somebody else, period. You can change everything about how you relate to somebody else, but you can't change them. And so I hesitate because we got to go into an exercise, but that would take more time, because like, who is this person to you? Because it might be as easy as delete them from your friends list, or it might be as easy as just having a hard conversation and explaining to them, which is what we're about to get into, self-advocacy, getting into explaining to them why that doesn't work for you. And if they want to be in relationship with you, they have to do something different. Right. So let's, Pastor, are you good to shift into the exercise? Or you got it? Okay. So you all, I want to take a look at self-advocacy, because once you understand your worth, once you understand everything about, it's not about being perfect. It's about seeing your flaws in all, trusting that God made you perfectly because he formed you and shaped you himself, and receiving all of that, then you can go into this place of knowing how to advocate for yourself, which is really, really important. And I wanted to look at this from Positive Psychology Online, the yin and yang of what self-advocacy and self-love looks like. It's how we act in the world and how we are with ourselves. So on one side, and yin and yang is the balance of things, right? So on one side, self-care, self-advocacy could look like protecting yourself, providing for yourself, and motivating yourself, right? Which is different than shaming yourself. Motivating yourself and shaming yourself are two entirely different things. That's the yang. The yin side of that is the comforting yourself, soothing yourself, validating yourself. And I don't know that we're always great about enacting these measures when it comes to self-care, self-advocacy, because the simple example would be, you had a hard day at work, so you got into it with somebody, a coworker or something. You come home, you draw a nice bath, or you take a nice shower, or you just decide, I'm gonna have wind down Wednesday, or whatever it is you do. You watch Netflix and chill and Zoom, whatever, or you get with your significant other, and you then are operating on that yin side, right? Where you're saying, I'm going to comfort myself, I'm going to soothe myself, I'm going to validate myself, right? But the other thing is, that might not be complete in your healing.
Right.
That might not be complete, right? Because the other part is, you might need to protect yourself, motivate yourself to go have that hard conversation with the person that caused all this ruckus on the job, right? And in that place, now you're on the yang side of what self-advocacy looks like. Talk to us about the importance of the balance of those two.
Ooh, yeah, I was just sitting here. If you show the graph again,
yeah, absolutely.
Just if when you look at the yang and the yin, if you do too much of one and not enough of the other, you can put yourself in some dangerous positions. I think of some people who are yang on steroids. They're always trying to protect me, myself, and mine. And they protect to the point of hurting others and then end up hurting themselves. And their motivation is not motivation, but it's really this internalized fear that is driving them, because they don't have the comforting and the soothing and the validating, because my motivation is internalized fear if I'm not validating myself at the same time, right? That my protection really becomes abuse if there's no comfort on the other side, right? So it's important. And if I'm more yin and less yang, then what happens is I'm lazy.
Yeah.
I'm slothful.
Yeah.
I'm laid up on my couch eating Haagen-Dazs and never doing anything productive. There's no productivity. There's no energy. There's nothing. So you are so right, Janette. There has to be a happy medium where I am keeping a good balance between the two.
Yeah. Now I'm going to lovingly talk to my tribe right now, because what we show up here to do is the yin and the yang. We can come and share and impart and encourage and inspire and motivate. The power of God can fall down in the middle of these devotionals, and you still have to do the work. You still have to do the work. You have to do the work. Why am I saying that? Not because I'm so heck bent on making sure that we stick to some sort of plan, or making sure that we, nope, because the Spirit of God will fall, and still faith without the work is not going to get you the results. So, yes, he's anointed. Yes, he is appointed. And yes, he can bring the thunder. And I'm telling you, 12 o'clock is going to be a good Bible study. Y'all pop over. It's just within an hour. Y'all can pop on over and do that. But if you take part in this, you will do some work, because it doesn't make any difference if we pour it all into you and you feel good in the moment. But when you get off of this stream, you have no idea what to do with the fork and the knife put in your hand.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
You got to do the work. No apologies necessary, because I know you aren't the only one thinking it. And I'll be doggone, we could sit up here and entertain all day, and we can pour, and it could make us feel good and give us the tingles and the shakes and the everything else. I want it too. But if we don't get results at the end of 2020, you look back and you're in the same place we're at now, what did we do it for? Love you too much. Love y'all too much. So let's go. Let's go. Let's go, poos. Poos and booze. Let's go. Pick a difficult life situation. Pick something that you're dealing with right now. Pick something you're dealing with right now. All right. Now, I'm going to put the chart back up. I want you to look at the yin self-compassion actions, the self-advocacy action. I want you to look at it, and I want you to say, okay, what on the yin side could I do to address that thing that's going on with me now? In what way could I comfort myself? In what way could I soothe myself? In what way can I validate myself? And at the end, I am going to ask if anybody wants to share, okay? In what way could I soothe, comfort, or validate myself? And if you know, and yes, he can be your pastor too, Bethel1.org, partner online, click the link. Bishops can be e-partners and keep their membership at their church. I'm just saying. All right. And now the third thing is, you've got this thing that you know that you've been dealing with. You chose a difficult situation. You looked at the yin side. Now look at the yang side. Okay. Because the yang side is a different form of self-advocacy. Look, remember, you're protecting, you're providing, and you're motivating. Absolutely. Right. So what way could you address that thing in your life through the yang side of self-compassion? And let me tell you why this is important, because a lot of what you're dealing with, if you would just take the time to address it, either on the yin and the yang, some things you could release immediately. Some things you wouldn't have to carry around. Mm-hmm. Some things you're carrying because you never affirmed yourself. Somebody said something to you. Let's go back to the example I gave about my misstep on the broadcast. Mm-hmm. If I didn't go back and affirm to myself and say, that was a one-time mistake. Yeah, it was a rookie move, but you're better than that. He was cool. You're good. You fixed it. Everybody will be fine. You learn from it and keep it moving. If I didn't take the time to go back and give myself that yin of comfort, soothing, and validating.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
then I would carry that into the next thing when I'm dealing with you, or when I'm dealing with somebody else, or when I'm dealing with the next thing.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important, Janette. That you needed to, for you and for us, that there has to be that that it has to be an acknowledgement that there was a disappointment, right? I didn't get what I thought I was going to get, but that doesn't determine my destiny, right? And that's where the comforting, that's where the soothing, that's where the affirming comes in. I think that that's so crucial.
Yeah, yeah. Caitlin says that's been me with academics, relying on worldly success to feel like I'm worthy of the emotional validation. I need to understand that God validated me the moment I was thought of. Absolutely. I mean, that's it. Boop, boop, boop. You just button that up. And I think that's why I'm so committed to this mindset thing. There's greatness in all of you. Some of you have been coaching clients, and when we look at the trajectory of you moving from dream to reality, the biggest hurdles were in this area of feeling worthy enough, deserving enough, and laying down the criticism, or your perceived criticism, that would come from others. And so how much more would we accomplish in our relationships and our finances and our career and all of that if we were able to accept ourselves, flaws and all,
Yeah.
love ourselves, make sure our pitcher stayed full, and then maintain it through the yin and yang of self-advocacy,
Mhm.
and then push that out into the world. How different would our society look if we were full pitchers, able to give what we
Mhm.
now feast on? Man,
Mhm.
man. I know you have to get ready for Bible study, so I want to give you an opportunity to share any last thoughts, insights. And I did see Savalas said, I love he gave revelation and not an emotionalism. It's the revelation is the seed of Genesis of change. Absolutely. And we have to do the work. I think, and I hope y'all heard my love. That's the circle. It has to be the whole thing. It has to be the whole pie. It has to be the revelation. It has to be the seed that's planted. It has to be the seed that's nurtured and watered. And then when the seed starts bearing fruit, we have to do the work. We have to do the work. We have to, if we want the harvest, you got to go get it. And so we pull on that thing. And God talks about, Jesus talked about, our ultimate life coach talked about the seeds that fall on stony ground versus good ground versus this ground. So the seeds are coming. We just got to make sure that we receive them. We do what we need to do so they bring fruit. Pastor, your final thoughts and words?
My last thought is this. I love that quote from Iyanla Van Zant,
Want me to put that
and if you can put it up if you want. And I was sitting here in my head paralleling that to the Samaritan woman,
Mm.
understanding on the intellectual level, right?
Mhm.
That Jesus has a conversation about, there's this water that I have. Okay, you have this water, have this understanding. And now let's get it to the place of, let's talk about your husbands. Oh, so she said, I see your prophets. There was an understanding. Okay, intellectually. Then trusting at the heart level, which was, it's not about the city. It's not about the mountain. It's about where you position yourself. You can connect to God if you come to God in earnest, right? Heart level. And then she said, well, okay, I think I can accept this when I see the Messiah, when the Messiah comes and says, well, I am the Messiah. There was an acceptance in her soul. She never verbally said, yes, I believe you.
Yeah.
Down in her soul, she said, yes, you are the one. And it was from the moment that her soul accepted that God loves me, that her whole life changes. And she changed directory. She leaves the water pots where they are. She runs back into town to come see a man because she had the understanding intellectually. Yes, she had trusting in her heart, but down in her soul, there was an acceptance that God loves me. And I think when we get down to that soul, when we get down to that spiritual acceptance, because the scripture says that the Spirit bears witness to our spirit that we are God's children, that there's a witness on the inside of us that's telling us God loves you because you are God's and God made you. And so once we get to that place of accepting the fact that God loves us, then we'll begin to accept loving ourselves.
That's it. That is the key. That is the key. And you know, Pastor, I know you often come on and are kind of stealthily hiding out in the chat rooms often on these broadcasts, but you know, Fridays are the days that we go back and we look at the work that we did through the week. So if you know you are available and you, whether it be on chat or online, I would love to invite you to come back on Friday as we wrap up.
Oh, and we'll be looking at that exercise, the yin and yang.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And let's look at that with everybody, because I want to give people time to do it. And for those of you, there's a worksheet that actually goes with that. And if you want to get the worksheet that you can download, all you have to do is text the word release to 22999, and I will send out that worksheet so that you can do the work, keep the work, and follow your trajectory through this self-care, development phase, because I just have this feeling, Pastor, and I know that you and I have talked about it, and Reverend Riri too, that 2020 we came in with a theme, clear vision, and everybody was playing off of 2020 some sort of way.
That's right.
Talking about clear vision, and boy did we get it. Boy did we get it. We didn't get it the way we thought we were gonna get it, but we sure got it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We did.
We sure got it. And I hope that everybody understands that, yes, while we lament and that, you know, and we empathize and sympathize with people who've lost their lives in this pandemic and lost their lives in this race debate that's going on worldwide, and you know, are dealing with job loss, job frozen, you know, all these different things, layoffs and whatnot, that there is still opportunity in here, in the disruption, to hear from God. If we hunker down, and, you know, I think about how even with the riots and different things, because as you know, I live in the inner parts of Baltimore City and near the harbor, and a lot of the protesting, the peaceful protesting go on, but you know, riots have gone on, and I watch Nala before I even know something's coming. She's hunkered down and she's listening because she can hear the rumblings of what's coming.
Yeah.
But it's that posture of hunkering down and being focused and in tune. And if we will hit the floor, get quiet, pray, meditate, listen not to what's happening out here on the TV and the computers and the you know, the ethos of all this that's going on, and even the sirens, and just what's the undercurrent? What is God speaking up under that thing? You will see that God is speaking opportunity and reposition and a lot of things of what's going on. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your time and for being on and for blessing the people of God, because you came and you wrecked the house and blessed the people of God. And we are grateful. We are grateful. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so I really do invite you all, if you want to get more, because we're talking about vision. And it sounds like a natural segue to me. Come on over to the Facebook page, Bethel AME Church. I never try to push anything on anything, but that is where our guest speaker for today is the fine pastor and his wife in pastoral leadership as well. And so if you will just click on over Bethel AME Baltimore, and you'll get to join us in 45 minutes. And here come the thank yous. When you deny who you are in Christ. Oh, yeah. When you deny who you are, you deny Christ. She's talking about our young adult session that we had.
Yes.
God bless you too, Wisdom Speaks. God bless you too, Leola says. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody, thank you. Now, Pastor, I know you got to go. I got to tell the people about something coming up tomorrow. God bless you. I'll see you in about 20 minutes. Thank you. Awesome. I'm glad you all really enjoyed that. I'm telling you that was a profound word. I hope you go back and watch this. And I saw that you shared. Thank you for your shares. There might be other people that you didn't think to share it with. I'm telling you, share that revelational knowledge with them too. Tomorrow, we're going to continue in this vein of self-care and self-advocacy. One of our own will be on with us from the Empowerment Tribe, Monique Pagan. We're going to be talking about emotional eating tomorrow, Thursday, 1 p.m., Life Unscripted. She's bringing with her some folks that, because that's her area of expertise in coaching, that have been on this journey, that are on this journey, and have a lot to share about the impact of emotional eating and really the nuts and bolts. We're going to dig down and it's going to be a deep dive. So I hope that you all will join us tomorrow. That's tomorrow at 1 p.m. You know, on Thursdays we're 1 p.m. So I hope that you'll join us tomorrow. And then of course we're going to come back and Pastor Clayborn said if he can make himself available, he's going to come back. We're going to go through your exercises about self-care and self-advocacy and any other insights that you got off of today. Really important that we come back and we button up the week, sharing it and going through that. So look forward to seeing you all on that. Ooh, yes, it's a good one. It's a good one tomorrow. Yes. You're welcome, Caitlin. So glad you popped in and great nuggets that you shared. Thank you. Nicole says she's got to watch the replay. I'm telling you, it's worth the replay. It's definitely worth the replay. And replayers, I need you to know that we go back through the comments and we go back and comment back to you. So please do it as if you're doing it. We got a replay village that goes hard. I mean, they talk like it's live, and I love it because I go back and respond like we're live. So the work stands. It's evergreen. What blessed you at 10 a.m. was going to bless you at 1 p.m. It's going to bless you at 12, a.m. So go back and get it. Go back and get it. Please restate the number that we should text to. Absolutely. Text the word release to the number 22999. The word release, just text that to 22999. All right, y'all. It's been another great one. And I'm so thankful for you all really getting it. We could feel you pulling. And that means that you've made space to do the work. The hardest thing sometimes is to make space to do the work. So thank you for making space to do the work. Listen, there are shows and programs that I do, and my numbers will be far higher because we're talking about entertainment and entertainment people and all this stuff. But when it comes to doing the work, that's when it gets a little gritty. And that's when the people that are for real show up. That's when the empowerment tribe shows up. And so I'm thankful to you all because listen, I'm not here for myself. I'm a learner. I'm a lifelong learner too, but it's here so that we all win. We all win. All right. You all have a great rest of your day. I'll see you on the Bible study for those of you who are going to pop over to Bethel AME Baltimore. And the rest of you, I will see you tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Love you to life. See you next time.